Welcome to another episode of Let's Read About the Presidents. We're going to do number 5, and this is the last one we're going to do for tonight. Mr. James Monroe, number 5. Mr. Monroe was born on April 28, 1758. He died on Independence Day, 1831, in New York City. His religion is listed as Episcopalian. Higher education, College of William and Mary. Like previous presidents, his profession was a lawyer and a senator. His military service included the Continental Army. For 4 years, rose from lieutenant to major, wounded at the Battle of Trenton, and also as a colonel in the Virginia militia for 1 year, 6 months to a year. His family was Spence Monroe. His mother was Elizabeth Jones Monroe. His wife was Elizabeth Courtwright Monroe. His children included Eliza Courtwright, James Spence, and Maria Hester. Political life for Mr. Monroe included being a member of the Continental Congress, U.S. Senator for 4 years, Minister to France, Ambassador to France, Governor of Virginia, Ambassador to France and England again, Secretary of State, and Secretary of War. His presidency was 2 full terms, March 4th, 1817 to March 4th, 1825. His party was Democratic Republican, and he completed his terms. His vice president was Daniel D. Tompkins, no H. In the election of 1816, the electoral vote, Monroe 183, Rufus King 34, no popular vote. In 1820, electoral vote, Monroe 231, John Quincy Adams 1 vote. Ouch, ouch, ouch. No popular vote. John Quincy Adams, he later became the 6th president. Ouch, 1 vote in the Electoral College. Ouch. Cabinet included Secretary of State John Quincy Adams, Secretary of the Treasury William H. Crawford, Secretary of War John Calhoun, Attorney General Richard Rush, William Wirt, W-I-R-T, Wirt, Secretary of the Navy Benjamin Crowninshield, Smith Thompson, and Samuel L. Southard. Monroe, did I know Monroe's 1817 inauguration was the first to be held outside? Interesting. Supreme Court appointments, Smith Thompson in 1823. He's a cabinet member and then later member of the court. Interesting. Slave insurrections. During Monroe's tenure as governor of Virginia, his state witnessed 2 slave revolts. After the first occurred in Southampton County in 1799, Monroe worked to ensure that the accused leaders were represented by counsel and treated humanely in prison, and investigated claims that they had been freedmen from Maryland, at a time when many of his countrymen considered slaves inferior and not entitled to rights. Monroe's efforts stood out for his interest in justice and fairness to the defenders. The slaves were prosecuted, found guilty, and executed. James Monroe is famous for the Monroe Doctrine. Monroe was the first president to have previously served as a U.S. Senator. States added to State of the Union. Population of the United States at this time, 9,638,553. States added to the Union: Mississippi in 1817, Illinois in 1818, Alabama 1819, Maine 1820, Missouri 21. Number of states in 1825, 24. Did I know Monroe was the first president to ride on a steamboat? The White House. Following the burning of the White House by the British in 1814, the Monroes moved back into the rebuilt home in 1817. They began furnishing the house in the Imperial Empire style, as they believed the president's home should be formal as well as stylish. Pieces included gilded furniture, carpets, silver, and chandeliers. Many of these items continue to be used in the White House today. Monroe also supervised the planting of more trees on the grounds and hired the first gardener for the White House. The south portico was added in 1824. Liberia. Beginning in 1816, the American Colonization Society began to repatriate slaves to Africa, but their first attempt to relocate Africans to Sierra Leone failed. A few years later, the ACS bought land in Africa, but that ultimately became Liberia. In 1825, the capital of the new colony was named Monrovia on behalf of the current U.S. president. 20 years later, Liberia became Africa's first republic, but its citizens were divided between those native to the area and the former American slaves. The latter group controlled the former. Did I know that Monroe's daughter Maria was the first to marry in the White House? The Missouri Compromise. The new nation had maintained an equal number of slave and free states since its inception. The balance threatened to be disrupted when Missouri petitioned for statehood. The idea of allowing the state from the West to allow slavery was anathema to many Americans, and the issue was debated extensively in Congress. In 1820, Speaker of the House Henry Clay proposed a compromise that allowed Missouri to enter as a slave state and Maine as a free state. All other lands north of the 96 by 30 degrees north latitude would be free. 30 degrees, 36 degrees, and 3630 north latitude would be free. This law was later overturned by the 1854 Kansas-Nebraska Act and the Dred Scott Supreme Court decision. Ooh. Let's see if there's anything about the Monroe Doctrine. I don't think so. All right, folks, that is James Monroe. I hope you enjoyed tonight. Have a great day.